Hey there guys, another Q&A video. This time I got asked about when would I integrate the Larsen press into training. First of all, the Larsen press, also known as feet up bench press, it's another really good variation. Some people can do it really well, and other people, it leads to injury for some individuals, and the individuals that it tends to injure will be people with limited shoulder mobility, or people that can't do the bench press very well in general because their shoulders always seem to be aggravated. With a Larsen press or feet up bench press, because you can't get the same degree of arch, you got to remember that the higher you arch, the higher your chest is, the safer your shoulders are within reason, because you don't have to bring the humerus as far down into extension. Some people can get away, like people that have got really good shoulder mobility and shoulder health, generally won't have a problem with, Larsen press. For me, fit up bench, Larsen press goes really well. I find after 8 to 10 weeks, shoulders slowly start to become, I'm not going to say aggravated, but they just feel really fatigued. And then when that happens, I just switch it up, or I might go, 2-3 weeks without doing any feet up bench, and everything recovers perfectly. Another exercise is not, it's a similar in some regards because it's bench press, but it's a lot more taxing on the shoulders, and that's the spotto press. You're bringing it down to within an inch or two of your chest. That's an exercise for me. I can't do that any longer than 2-3 weeks because my shoulders really dislike it. Other people can do it for a very long time. So everything comes down to the individual and their mobility and just how they handle training volume and load. Even if I had a decent arch and I tried to do a spotto press, it still aggravates my shoulders. It's just an exercise that my body doesn't like. Feet up bench press, because I bring the bar down, pause it on the chest, and then press it up, I find being able to dissipate some of the load on the pause into my chest temporarily just helps. And it sort of just helps being able to reverse the movement. So, you've got the eccentric phase coming down, then concentric going up. Find, the ability just to rest it on the chest slightly and then reverse direction is a lot easier. A spotto press, as I said, my shoulders really dislike it. When would I integrate spotto press into training? Again, everything comes down to the individual. If you're finding you're having a lot of problems stabilizing the weight in the base position, like right off the chest, or you're losing position on bench, you'll probably find you'll get a lot out of it because it forces you to learn how to stabilize only using your upper back, because your feet are up, you don't have any stability. So it's something you'll learn just to really retract your scapula. Some people retract and depress. For me, I mainly just retract my scapula and hold a really strong position. I feel really stable when I do that. And that's also, I've played around with the Larsen press for, I don't know, many, many years, because, I put it into different training blocks. It's not an exercise I do, year round by any means. Definitely not doing it at the moment. I'm just enjoying regular bench. But if I was finding I was losing positioning in the paused position, it's an exercise that I'd bring back in. And then once you learn how to hold position with your upper back really well, when you put your feet down, you'll get a little bit more of an arch. You might be able to, obviously you can get leg drive with your feet down. But I find the difference between then my competition style bench and Larsen press, there's not too much of a difference in terms of kilos shifted, maybe 7.5 kilos, that's about it. Because you learn how to stabilize, the weight really well. In terms of reps, when you're first starting out, like anything, keep the reps on the higher side. Definitely don't go below 6, because at the start, you want to get as many quality reps as possible, because it's going to help, create a good movement pattern. And the same thing, leave a few reps in the tank as well, because you don't want to be fatiguing out and having your technique breaking down while you're trying to learn a new movement pattern. If you have poor technique, or your movement pattern's breaking down as you're trying to learn something new, it's going to take you a very, very long time to learn that skill, as opposed to, if you keep your ego and numbers in check, it's going to be a much faster and more beneficial process. Not to mention, the risk reward is far, far better, because if you're pushing a new exercise that you're not familiar with and your shoulders, in a different position that you're not used to, the chances of getting injured always go up. Not to say you're going to get injured, but that's the reality of things. Some people get injured, other people don't. So take your time with it. How many weeks would I run it for? For me, 6 to 8 weeks always goes really, really well for the Larsen press. If you're just doing it as an accessory movement with a lot less load, just to practice it, you can run it much, much longer. The less taxing an exercise is, the longer you can do it as well. And that's why people can't hold a competition strength peak year round. It's just too taxing on the body to get under max load, week in, week out, things break down. But if you're doing something that's light and technique work, you can incorporate Larsen press, as an assistant exercise at the start, just so you get, your movement pattern down pat, and then later on you may want to move it to being your primary bench press movement. And in the past, it's definitely been my primary bench movement for, 6 to 8 weeks. Sometimes longer if I'm not, training the rest of the body ridiculously hard. I just got more time to recover. Another exercise that will go well with the Larsen press is just either doing heavy rows or pull-ups, something like that. Just working the back thoroughly, because the back needs to help stabilize your scapula, because that's giving you the foundation which you're basically pressing from, and more so especially with a Larsen press, because your feet are up. You don't have that extra stability. So that would be my advice on it. Frequency, just treat it exactly like bench. If you're benching once heavy, once light, then do the same thing. It's just a small difference. 15-20% weight difference at the start for some people, and later on other people press pretty much the same numbers with bench press and Larsen press. If you have a ridiculously huge arch, you're going to be more at that 20% strength drop. But as I said, everything comes down to the individual. If you guys have any more questions, especially Q&A style, feel free to comment below. Do my best to get back to you. Otherwise, if you haven't already, hit like and subscribe, and have a great day wherever you are.